All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lech, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How's everybody doing tonight? Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch the party, even though you missed the live parties. Guys, that is the best part, so make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. Let's also say thank you to my6shirt.com. Whatever your persuasion, they got something for you. And, of course, it's the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at my6shirt.com. All right. Welcome to the party. How is everybody doing? So we got somebody in the building already. We got Opus. What is good? Welcome to the party. So, we've done some, we've done streams about Peter Boghossian before, and I really like the way that he fosters conversation. And on this channel, that's exactly what we try to do: is to foster conversation and make sure that it is easier to do that. So it's been a while. But we have a couple of videos from Peter Boghossian here. And I want to focus on not necessarily the conversation itself, because it's a conversation that, we have pretty regularly, but the way the conversation is going down. So he is here at the University of Central Florida asking some questions. And let's check it out. As always, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me.
UCF.
University of Central Florida.
Okay, we've never met before.
No.
We ever met before?
Nope.
Never seen me before.
Never seen me.
Perfect. Awesome. All right.
Yeah,
and
right.
we are gonna do. There are only two genders. Everybody get the rules? They're pretty straightforward. There are only two genders. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So thank you, Opus. So this is the setup of the whole thing. There's a claim. This is similar to the Jubilee Middle Ground thing that we do. There's a claim, and then he's got these different mats set up on the ground, and each one stands for a position. You start on the neutral, goes all the way from strongly agree. There's agree. There's slightly agree. Then on the other side, slightly disagree, and strongly agree. So the first claim being there are only two genders, and of course we would say strongly agree. Let's see what they say.
Move. Okay. Tell her why you slightly disagree.
Well,
And do you know her? Or here, stand. Come over here. Do you know her?
yeah, I do know her.
So it's a little odd to me that you would be slightly anything with this. I could see you being on, either saying agree or disagree, but I don't want to go to strongly because, this is a hot topic and there might be something that I understand. I can see you going to strongly agree because you believe there's two genders. I can see you going to strongly disagree because you believe that there's 7 million. But slightly disagree or slightly agree, that's interesting. That's a little interesting. Opa said, okay, I have problems immediately. Exactly. For me, you can only agree or disagree. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. That it's a little odd to slightly disagree with that. But let's see what he's got to say about that.
Okay, cool. So tell her.
All right, so I put slightly first of all because gender is like the word gender is like more of the construct, and the word sex is like
Is it though?
more of like a definitive thing. So like when you talk about sex, like male and female, it's like there's only I believe that within your chromosomes there is male and you're a female. But if you want to say gender, like
that would be two. That would be two, right?
oh, I don't feel like I'm that gender, then you can say that. Like I feel like
So you think gender is it a social construct?
It's a social construct, but its sex does define your gender. But if you want to identify something else, that's okay.
Okay. So
All right, welcome to the party. Zig said transgender games like he said, she said. That is a good one. Welcome to the party, brother. Opus said, these poor little pumpkins are confused about the birds and the bees. Well, that's what happens when you start messing with the language around all this stuff. It's impossible to learn. I mean, just in our last stream on Friday, when I was having that discussion with St. Michael, you know, he was so tickled pink that I accidentally said that I thought that Dylan Mulvaney was straight because I was trying to do the calculation. Okay, so it's a man and then it turns into a woman, and then it like, that's what happens. It gets confusing. It gets confusing. Now, he thinks that means that he won the conversation or something, but I mean, it gets confusing.
So tell him why you think there are only two genders.
Science.
There are only two genders just because, I mean, I get the I get the social construct thing. I feel like more recently it's been kind of like the big difference between the two. I feel like it used to not be like that. So growing up, I was raised one way, so I still believe that way.
Do you believe it because it's true, or do you believe it because, like, so are you standing on that line?
Yeah, what she's saying is this is what I grew up to believe, which is not a good reason. And you know, arguably, I was just saying I don't know why you would be on slightly agree or disagree, but that would be a good reason as to why you would be on slightly agree, because it's what you grew up with, it's what you know, but you don't necessarily have the enough information to say that I know for sure, but this is just what I knew growing up. What if you're on strongly agree? It should be because you know that you agree with the statement, that you know that it is in fact true.
Because it's true, or are you standing on that line because that's how you were raised?
Exactly.
Because I think it's true.
Okay. What's the difference between, because as he mentioned, sex and gender? What's the difference between sex and gender?
I don't.
A liberal. That's it. That's it. There is no difference unless you are in front of a leftist. There's no meaningful difference.
I don't really see a difference between sex and gender.
Do you think gender is you think gender is a social construct?
I believe so.
Do you think
I'm sorry.
Even if it is, it's not a social construct just out in the vacuum of space. It's a social construct that is directly tied to the biology of your sex. It's just the way that you present your biological sex. So you may want to identify as the opposite gender, but doing that, saying that I'm going to look like the opposite gender, is taking what the other sex is and trying to mimic that. Yeah. It basically changing what the word gender means. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
I said I believe so because I do have to do a little bit of research sense why I'm like slightly disagree.
Okay.
If I can confirm that fact, I will definitely be on the other side.
Okay.
Fair enough.
What would you need to confirm that?
Just like make sure that my facts are straight in the
Like what facts would you what facts
definition.
Where would you come up with the definition, from a dictionary, or how would you get the definition?
Oh, wait, first I would go to dictionaries, and then I would go to like the public, like what they think are like professionals.
I want to come back to that actually, but Opus says I'm beyond that point. For me, there are two genders and extreme statistical anomalies where something went wrong. Completely agree. I mean it's that simple. Anything that is outside of the binary is simply a statistical anomaly. That's it. So this guy is talking about like what the construct is, and this is where again he's gonna get caught up, because yes, it is a social construct, but it's not like that means it's fake or it's made up or it's not tied to anything real.
Confirm that.
Just like make sure that my facts are straight in the
like what facts would you what facts
definition.
I don't know.
Where would you come up with the definition, from a dictionary, or how would you get the definition?
See, and we already know that they've changed the word woman in the dictionary. So we've gone, Opus says I'm beyond that point. Yeah, we all are. We are beyond the point where the dictionary is going to tell you what the definition of the word is. The definition of the word is going to be dictated by those who are using it. That is what you are now finding in the dictionary, not what the word is actually meant to mean. Zig says, yeah, the people who will eat bugs, the WF speaks about it. Same argument that time is a human construct. Are people saying that? Really? Anything that is observed and put into language is a human or social construct. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I haven't heard people saying that time is a human construct. I've heard people talk about how we experience time in a particular way, but people are out there, man.
Oh, wait, first I would go to dictionaries, and then I would go to like the public, like what they think are like professionals.
Except the problem is that we have an entire documentary about professionals not being able to answer what a woman is. Yeah. Good job.
The public or professionals, which one?
Good distinction.
Both. I would do both. But obviously I would listen more to like how the public feels, because it's not really.
You would listen more to what the public feels than the experts?
What?
This guy's all over the place. Hold on. Let's try this again.
The public or professionals, which one?
Both. I would do both. But obviously I would listen more to like how the public feels, because it's not really how people feel about it. It's more like how things.
Like if you wanted to consult an expert in who knows this, like what would their field of expertise be?
Their field of
Biology?
expertise, it would just be like, well, okay, it depends on the topic, but on this specific
Biology.
topic,
Yeah, on this topic.
on
yeah.
this specific topic,
Gender.
I don't think I would go to an expert. I'll be honest. I was saying that for in general thing, but for this
I was saying that, just for the points that I'm supposed to say that, and I'm on the side of people who are saying the things that we're supposed to say. But when you're actually pinning me down on it, I don't really know anything. Hey, we got Unwanted Foe in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Not a biologist. Fair enough. Welcome to the party. Oba said, yeah, that is so embarrassing that all these academics and politicians are too spineless to even attempt a non-circular definition. It's not that complicated. Adult, human, female. And then, when you're asking what is a female, there's there is the reproductive capabilities of animals, and those go in two categories. One is male, one is female. It's just the name that we give that category. But the category already exists. It's not like we're making up the category. We're just naming the category.
specific topic, I would just like consult it myself. I would just like go. I would go definition based, more like.
Like a dictionary.
This
Yeah,
guy, I don't know what
probably,
he's talking
yeah.
about.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay, let's reset to the neutral line. I have an idea.
Oh, welcome to the party. Mark Peterson with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much. With a nice little dad joke. Why do dogs bark? Because they can't talk. Oh, and there we go. And that makes you the sponsor of the stream. Thank you so much. And welcome to the party. Good to see you, Mark. Welcome. Thank you so much, brother. Much appreciated. Let's get you in the banner here.
Is it? Tell me why is it a hard question?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know how to explain it.
It's tricky.
It's a tricky question because I feel like a lot of people have a different definition of what the difference between sex and gender is.
Do they?
You know what I mean? I feel like I didn't hear the difference between sex and gender until like 2021, 2022.
Thank you again, Mark. But yes, I as she's saying, you didn't really hear a lot about the difference between sex and gender. I mean, I wouldn't say I would say 2015, 2016, right in there. But you didn't hear about it. Why? Because we all understood. We all understood that we didn't have male and female bathrooms. Or excuse me, you don't have the men's room and the women's room because sometimes guys like to wear dresses. We had the men's room and the women's room because we understood that men are tied to males and being a woman is tied to being female. even if they're not exactly the same thing. Even, they're different words, they have different meanings slightly, but they are very closely tied. Where are we? Oba said, this girl is smart. What is she doing at college? Well, hopefully learning to put herself in a situation where she can turn those things around. You guys talking about she sells here. It's a tricky question because you don't want to upset the vicious woke mob.
Bingo.
Yup.
Very recently. Why do you think it's a tricky question?
Well, I feel the same way as her. Like, it's a very recent topic, so there's not. It's very controversial, so it's not really much discussed properly. But I think it's a hard question because you gotta go by the. I personally go by the definition of what it is. So,
if the dictionary changed the meanings of words, like
they actually do, there's no.
Oh yeah, they do. Like I said, they changed the definition of the word woman to mean anything that is a woman. The actual dictionary, I think it was it wasn't the Oxford Dictionary. I think it was Merriam-Webster. But they changed the definition of woman. You can no longer trust the dictionary.
Like,
so then if the dictionary changes the meaning of words, does the truth change?
No, not at all. Like
so then the dictionary could be wrong.
The dictionary could definitely, it's not wrong because
yes, it is.
It's always changed. Like, definitions are changing. It's more like definitions are used that way because everybody uses that word that way.
That aspect right there. The word changes because everybody uses the word that way. That is usually how language actually does develop and evolve. That people will start using a word in a slightly different way than it used to be used. That's how slang works, and that's how language in general evolves. The problem is that with woke ideology is that they're not trying to do it organically. They're trying to force a top-down change in the way language is used. There's a big difference between an organic change, even to the chagrin of every English teacher ever, that kids would use the word literally, they would overuse the word literally and use it when they meant figuratively. And so they changed the word in the dictionary that it literally means literally and figuratively. It literally means the opposite of literally. But that happened organically. Nobody, went to the head of a school to try. It just, people were using literally so often in this way that it made sense for us to change the reference of when somebody says literally, what do they mean? Organically, that had changed. Mark says, we all know the truth. This is a distraction in 4D chess. Yep. Oba said, language has to change by practical application over time, not from edict from up on high. Exactly. You guys get it.
So if you want to change, the definition of like what a shoe is, for example, and you want to put your own word on it.
Hippopotamus.
Yeah, or you say it's a hippopotamus. Socially, people don't agree with that. So I think what defines the definition is like more like socially acceptable is like how people use it more.
So if we want,
hey, we got Van Allen in the building. Welcome to the party. Said there's only 2 genders. Oh, I was on live chat or top chat. That's why I didn't see it. There are only 2 genders, but voted no. That survey needed another option. So we've got our own survey going on for the live viewers here. And it says, would you say, quote, there are only 2 genders loud out in public? And so I'm curious what you think another option needs to be. Because that's the phrase. Would you say it loud in public? And I do understand there are extenuating circumstances. But why do you think that needs another option? I'm going to come back to that. But welcome to the party. But I'm very curious. All right, so let's back this up a little bit. What are we saying? Yeah.
I wanted to figure out
definition is like more like socially acceptable is like how people use it more.
So if we wanted to figure out if gender was a construct and we looked up the word gender and that we know that the dictionaries change according to what the common belief is, that would basically be telling us what the common belief is. It wouldn't be telling us if it's true or not.
Yeah, that
Yep.
just common belief. It's just pretty much.
So how would we figure out if it's true?
This I don't think this topic is really black and white, like true or false.
Okay. All right. Well, what about this one? We're going to reset it.
So he said this topic is not really like that. It's not really true and false like that. But that claim absolutely is. There are only two genders. Either that is true or that is not true. It can't be both and it can't be neither.
There are only two sexes.
All right. So now this is the second one. There are only two sexes. So before, our girl went all the way over to strongly agree for there are only two genders. So it only makes sense that she would go over to strongly agree. But the dude went to slightly disagree with the claim that there are only two genders. The question is, where is he going to go? And it would only make sense because he was just talking about the difference between sex and gender, and that gender is a construct and all that. So now that we're talking about sex and not gender, they should both be going to strongly agree. But Opa said he might be going to slightly agree. Let's see.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move.
There we go.
Ah, okay. Why do you strongly agree?
I think there's a man and a woman. I don't think.
And without me being vulgar, sorry. What? How do we know? And you don't have to answer that if you don't. You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
Your
But
reproductive organ.
Dick or pussy.
that was a very politic answer. Okay. So you know from your reproductive organs, and we can point to one person's reproductive organs, and we can use what male.
You're a male. You're
And we can point to another person's reproductive organs and we can say female.
Yes.
Is that, you agree with that?
So before he goes, Oma's saying he surprised me. There's hope for him. Yes, but the thing is that we have to understand that he already knew. The issue isn't that he went to that he would have gone to something else on this question. The issue is that the previous question was essentially the same question and he gave a different answer. That's what everybody would do. Is that, well, in gender, we do this, but in sex, we do this. As if they're not connected at all. When, of course, they are. So there might be hope for him, but I don't know if this really showed it. Because that's what we would expect.
I would add a little bit more to that, and I would go to like the specific, like your genetics, like literally your X and Y chromosome. That's it. It's flat. If you strip everything down to its bare bones, X, are you X or are you Y? Like, are you XX or XY?
Yeah. So it's, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I just want to make sure I understand. So it's rooted in observation. We look, and it's rooted in biology.
Yes. Bingo. Yes, correct. Although we're excluding extremities where like there could be like an XXY or any, those people that like they literally their gender is kind of ambiguous to the public. So that's
their gender or their sex?
I mean their sex. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine.
See, these people know. They know it's the same. They know it's the same. And when they're not paying attention, they will speak as if it's the same because it is the same. But then he'll correct him. Like, oh, well, I meant this. Oh, sorry. Hey, welcome to the party, Lil Toes. Welcome. Good to see you, brother.
So let me ask you a question. If somebody was standing on the strongly disagree for the claim there are only two sexes, would they be wrong?
I would think yes. I would say yes.
Okay, all right.
I would say yes too.
We had a little tech malfunction, and I have no idea what we left. What are we talking about?
We were talking about
Come on,
what
man.
differs the two sexes, or why you think there's two sexes.
Yeah, and then
What makes it different? And I said they're.
Oh yeah, you said organs.
Pussy.
Look,
But I wanted to add.
Yeah, you wanted
because
to
I
add.
forget people get surgery to switch. So reproductive
okay.
system, but also what matches their chromosomes.
So
So I don't know how much they recorded before they realized that they weren't recording, or how much they went through. But they left off at the point of the dude talking about those statistical anomalies, like like Opus was talking about before. That absolutely there are people who fall in between the binary, but that doesn't negate the fact that the binary exists.
so if you get a surgery, let's drill down. Hey, let's reset. Let's reset.
Reset.
If a
Reset.
person gets a surgery called top surgery and bottom surgery, and they take the not you don't I don't want to traumatize you. I don't want to traumatize you. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Why? What do you think is going to happen?
It's gonna be a tough question. This one.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough question. That's why
I reacted that way because oh my gosh.
And what?
Oh my gosh, there's like tough questions, and oh man,
What's going to happen when you ask tough questions?
People are gonna disagree with you,
And so what? Who cares?
yeah, I personally I would want people to disagree and politely talk about it informally.
How boring would your life be if everybody agreed with you all the time?
It would be super
Facts.
boring. I would prefer.
yeah. Unwanted folks says XXY and others outside XX and XY are considered a birth defect. Should they, them, and Zer be considered similar? I think so. I think it all goes in the category of the exception to the binary. There's the binary, and then anything that is not the binary exists in the exception. There's the exception to every rule. Opus said this idea that there's a spectrum and everyone falls in a different area on the spectrum. I reject that completely. I mean, I have heard there arguments be made about how the different cells are and stuff like that. I'm sure you could do mental gymnastics and stuff to make that work. I just don't think it is a useful way to talk about sex and personality. That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about gender. We're not talking about anything to do with sex. We're talking about how do you present yourself. And it comes down to masculinity and femininity. And those things have a lot more to do with who your person is, your personality, how your personality is, than what your sex is. It's just gotten tied up in this. And so somebody who is a male, who is more feminine, gets lost into this idea that they're not actually a man anymore. When really, it's just like, you're kind of just a girly dude. That's it. Not a problem. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hey, we got Indie Boom in the building. Welcome to the party. Did you catch that shout out for the secret word? Finally got that shout out to you. Welcome to the party, brother. All right, let's see. Where are we?
How boring would your life be if everybody agreed with you all the time?
It would be super boring. I would prefer someone where to be like, hey, I disagree with that because this and that. Maybe you could change my mind.
Yeah. And then you'd never know if the thing you believe was bullshit or not because no one ever questioned you on it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Instead of mob mentality, people should stop canceling so much and stop.
And start talking to each other.
Exactly.
Which is why you guys are here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good.
Good job.
Okay.
Good
So,
job.
it's possible to change
All right.
sex.
All right. So now, I guess we already know what Indie Film has to say about this, but the claim is that it is possible to change your sex. And of course, we're going to say hell no on that one. Now, I'm curious if the next question is going to be it's possible to change your gender, then I would say theoretically yes, but that it doesn't change your sex.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. It's possible. Yeah, it's possible to change sex. Okay. Tell him why you think it is not. You strongly disagree with the claim that it is possible to change sex. Tell him. Can you hear her?
Tell him. I think what you're born with is what you're born with. I think I will still respect your decision to change. That has nothing to do with me, but I still believe that you are what you are born with.
Okay. Tell her why you strongly agree that it's possible to change sex.
Oh, it's
Tell her.
possible to change. Oh, wait. No. I'm
Okay, then go over there. Go over
Come
there.
on, bro. Come
Okay,
on.
sorry.
No, there's nothing
I
to be sorry
misunderstood
about.
the question.
No,
I
no,
misunderstood.
no.
Okay.
Tell. Well,
Then
then
we had an actual
right,
we don't have
disagreement
a.
here.
Tell her why you agree with
I
it.
agree with you because you can't change your X and Y chromosomes. Like, how are you gonna do that?
Okay, what if somebody? I'm thinking about the lady boys in Thailand. You know what that is?
Yeah,
Like,
I know
so-
exactly what those are. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he knows exactly. He knows exactly what these are. All right, fair enough. Did y'all catch that? He was like, "Oh, lady boys, I love that." Oh man, look at this. Look at him.
Thinking about the lady boys in Thailand. You know what that is?
Yeah,
Like,
I know
so-
exactly what those are. Yeah.
Okay. So,
I don't know if I'd be so quick to admit that, but hey, whatever floats your boat. Mark says humans are mammals. Show me a zoo full of transgender mammal animals. I'm sorry, sir. I can't do that. Yeah. Unwanted post said, dude is confused. Goes to show how closely sex and gender are associated. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, like this is exactly how you know, in the debate that his St. Michael's big crowning moment was me just simply getting confused about this stuff. And the fact is, it's just confusing. Like, all right, if you think that's a dunk on me because I got confused about how weird this shit is, then all right.
Too many of them.
Well, so what if somebody had bottom surgery and, you know, without being vulgar or anything, had a really can I ask you a personal question?
Go ahead.
Are you heterosexual?
Yes, I'm like heterosexual.
Okay. So are you a virgin?
No.
Okay. Okay. So what if you saw a naked person and they were born with a penis and they had like a perfectly constructed vagina and breasts and their facial surgery, which I've heard is quite painful, by the way.
Yeah.
But what if they had that? Would that be a woman?
I'm so sorry. I would disagree because yes, on the outside, your appearance seems that way, but your genetics doesn't lie.
Okay. What if you couldn't tell the difference? You saw this person naked. You couldn't tell the difference. Would that be a woman?
No. Like I still say it's not a woman. Like even if you can't tell the difference, I'm saying like biologically, this is what like defines you.
Oma said he was the one whose definition for sex was your chromosomes. Then he was saying you could change sex. I was like, what? Yeah, again, confusion. This whole thing can be boiled down to confusion. All this is confusion. People who are confused, people who are talking about this are confused, people who are living this are confused. Just a whole bunch of confusion.
Biologically, your sex is defined biologically, not at all by how you feel or how you look. It is just how biologically you are. I think so.
Would that be a female?
Like someone with a like female.
Someone born male has surgery,
to look like a female.
like truly looks like
Not a
bona
female.
fide pass.
Yeah, nope.
Is it? So it's not a woman. It's not a female.
It's not a female. It is a male, 100%.
I agree.
Okay, let me ask you a question. The opinion that you just voiced now, could you have voiced that 3 years ago or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
hell
And
yeah, you could.
No. We know that there's a reason that this was a question. There's a reason this is a question. Of course not. Of course not. 2 years ago, we were right in the thick of all of this. 2 years ago was right in the thick of COVID and all of that. You think that is when we were able to speak openly about this? We couldn't speak openly about anything. You literally couldn't quote the CDC. But you think you could just go out and talk about this? Come on, bro. Oh, big shout out to Unwanted Foe for the $5. That, of course, gets a treat for Morty and makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so much. What does Unwanted Foe to say? If you wrap a Snickers in Twix packaging, is it now a Twix? I want to go ahead and say no. No, I mean that's exactly what they're doing. trying to act like if you put a different if you put a different covering on it, then it changes what it fundamentally is, and it just doesn't. It just doesn't.
And do you think the social consequences would be the same or no?
No, not at all.
What would the would they be worse or better now? Are they better now or worse for saying that?
They're worse, definitely, especially with cancel culture nowadays.
His time, like, okay, I think he's trying to answer the question in terms of like 10 years ago, because I don't think he actually listened to the question. I think he's just like saying like, oh, you used to be able to talk like this, but now you can't because cancel culture. But 2 years was what he asked. That's specifically that timeline is not lining up with what he's saying. But 10 years ago, if he was saying 10 years ago, you definitely could have been saying this stuff out loud. Of course, there's two genders, there's two sexes. You can't change your sex. All of that stuff would have no problem. But 2 years ago, hell no. Indie Film says, what if a baby was born with a penis and was wearing a kilt with a pink ribbon in his hair? Do you think that would be a woman? And then, come on. That's where we're at. Questions like that. Opus said, if that guy was in a different state, he wouldn't say that openly. Yeah, I agree. Like if he was at Caltech. Where was this again? This is Pennsylvania, right? Yeah. So this is, I mean, all colleges are going to essentially be indoctrination centers for liberalism, but it's a little different depending on where you go. Any film said male and female is defined genetically. Period. End. Stop. Over. Done. Over and out. Is it Florida? I forget. It said it, but I don't remember. Oh yeah, Central Florida. You right. Central Florida. Good call. All right. So yeah, he's trying to talk about how, like I said, I think his timeline is messed up. He's not actually listening. He didn't actually listen to the timeline. The spirit of the question is, did you used to be able to say this stuff? And is it better or worse now? But again, just listen to what he's saying on.
Okay, let me ask you a question. The opinion that you just voiced now, could you have voiced that 3 years ago?
3 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think the social consequences would be the same or no?
No, not at all.
What would the would they be worse or better now? Are they better now or worse for saying that?
They're worse, definitely, especially with cancel culture nowadays.
So it's like, again, the spirit of what he's saying is correct. We just did this this stream on Friday about how people are waking up, that even gay people are starting to say, no, this is too much. But that hadn't happened 2 or 3 years ago. That's only just happened in the last 18 months maybe, that we've really started seeing just normal people, and specifically normal people within the LGBT community, not just siding with the activists. Oh, another 199 from Mark Peterson. Thank you so much. We'll get that for Morty. Thank you again. Mark said, please do a video on the human rights campaign. I can definitely do that. I will make a note in Discord and definitely do that. Yep, a little bit of a nom for the dog. Thank you again, Mark.
What is cancel culture?
Cancel culture is basically a band of people is choosing to ostracize you from society because of what they feel is wrong. And yes, it is. It does do good things. For example, like people want to cancel like actual people that do wrong in the world. But like, then if you have like a difference of opinion, there's something that's very opinion based, people will get like very toxic and like start insulting you.
Okay, so back to topic at hand. So surgery does not make someone like
exactly, Obus.
What do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean the Bud Light thing is like happening now. That was only a couple months ago. Target's happening now. All that stuff is just kind of spinning up. So he's right in what he is, like the idea that he has, but it was just the timeline. He asked about 2 to 3 years. If he had said 5 years or 10 years, then he would definitely be in the right. But I think the result of saying there's two genders 2 years ago, you'd be canceled. Now it's acceptable to say, I'm not with that whole thing.
Trans women are women, trans men are men. So you
like a born woman goes trans to
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Born-
huh?
It always confuses me, that wording.
Yeah.
I think are you asking what was are you asking
Yeah. So if you're standing on a strongly agree, then you don't believe trans women are women and you don't believe trans men are men.
Yes. Correct.
Is that correct?
All right. Yep.
Okay, let's reset one more time to the neutral line.
All right. So
Trans
our next claim
women are really women.
trans women is the claim. Trans women are really women. Now you can find a way to say that to agree with this if you are willing to stand on the fact that gender and sex are different, and you say, yes, I accept that trans women are really women, even though they're not females. They really are women. I go one step further and say that no, that if trans women are men, but if they want to present themselves as women and think that they are women and they want me to refer to them as women, I don't really have an issue with that. If you're going to force me to do it, then now we're talking about a different thing than whether I care about what you want your name to be. But in general, I don't care. Open says, it blows my mind that Pride went from day to week to month and only like 4 years. Yep. We did just read something. We read something. What was it? That was talking about Pride Week. I forget exactly what it was, but I'm telling you guys, we're winning. We're taking back ground. So, all right. Trans women are really women. Let's see what they say.
5, 4, 3. Trans women are really women. 1 move.
Yeah, it's the same question.
Okay. All right. Did we repeat
You could do the one.
Yeah, we did.
You could do the one about the sports. You said that.
trans women in sports?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that one.
So we've got, we completely, this guy completely went from being like, I don't know. But it shows you how quickly you can get people out of that zone of feeling like, I have to say this is the right thing. If you just let them know, like, hey, it's okay if you believe that there's only 2 genders. It's okay if you believe that trans women aren't really women. Then I'm like, oh, okay. And they shed that mask. They shed that weight of feeling like they have to get, belong and all of that very quickly. So they agreed on that. So they're moving to the next one. Let's see what they got.
Okay, good. Let's do this one. You want?
Open saying this girl is smart. She's asking the right questions, even better than Boghossian. I like her. All right. Yeah, I do too. She's got a good head on her shoulders.
Want to join?
Oh, more people? I'm pretty well versed on the topic. Okay.
All right, come on in.
All right.
Trans women should be allowed in women's sports.
All right. So the claim. This is the big one, guys. Trans women should, is the claim, be allowed in women's sports. Again, I'm going to give that an astounding hell no. For obvious reasons. Again, we talk about this a lot. This isn't about breaking new ground on these ideas. This is about how are these other people thinking about it? How are these people talking about it? Let's see. Opus is ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move.
So I guess our friend in the overalls is well versed. We got a hell no. Unwanted foe said someone well versed in this should be hilarious. I think you're right.
Okay.
So we have our boy stayed neutral, which is always fair. I think that's always fair. Even if I think this is, you should obviously have an answer on this. This is an easy one. Neutral is better than having the wrong answer. So fine. Then our girl went to strongly disagree, as it should be. and our well-versed individual went to strongly agree that trans women should be allowed in sports. Interesting. Has to say no. Yep. And then the hair. The hair. All right. So let's let them get into it.
Neutral, you didn't move. Why didn't you move?
Because recently I would have been asked me this yesterday, and I would have been probably like they shouldn't be. I would have been like strongly agree that
Oh,
they
so
shouldn't be.
you heard an argument that caused you to move to neutral.
Yep. This is
Okay.
why I openly encourage
Okay.
discussion and not
There we go.
toxicity and like canceling instead of exchange of information is better.
I agree. I completely agree. The fact is, he said that yesterday he would have been on strongly agree with the overall boy, but he's continuing to talk about this stuff. He's continuing to have conversations. Clearly he has this the right idea when he was asked about what would happen 2 years ago versus what's going to happen now versus all that stuff. He may not have the perfect understanding, but he's got an open mind, and he's got a willingness to continue learning. And guys, that's all we can ask for. That's all we can ask for. And so for him to stay neutral, like I said, that's better to stay neutral than to be on the wrong answer. Oh my goodness, Mark, you are blessing me so much. I didn't even get a chance to change the banner there. Let's give one more to Marty. Thank you again, Mark. Says, I have 19 grandsons, grandkids, excuse me. I have 19 grandkids. You got to follow their school. Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much. Let's dive back in and let me fix that banner for you.
So somebody said something that changed your mind. Okay, I'm coming back to that. Hi. Tell her at the very, very end there, way down there. You see her over there, so she can hear. So tell her, project your voice. Why? Move up so you're on the same line as her. So tell her why you agree that trans women should be allowed in women's sports.
So I think there's a lot of nuances to the question. Is it professional? Have these people medically and physically transitioned? A lot of that goes into the equation. But if we're talking hypothetically, I think the most common thing to talk about is collegiate athletes, and normally with people who have transitioned. So you look, for example, at someone like Leah Thomas, who is the swimmer from UPenn, who came first in her event. If you look at her statistics from her freshman year when she was competing in the male division
and losing terribly
to where she was at by her senior year or junior year, whatever last year was, when she was competing and winning the tournaments. As she started to take estrogen and hormone replacement therapy and things like that, her statistics went down a lot. And the difference between her and the male world record and the difference between her and the women's world record were pretty much the same when she was competing as a man versus competing as a woman. And so I think a lot of other biological factors outside of hormones, we think play a much bigger impact on what sports are, when really the only difference that tends to happen is hormones and the way you can build muscle mass.
So already he's taking he's hedging his argument by saying, well, sports aren't really that important anyway, so even if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. Did you catch that? He's making his argument. He believes in his argument, but he still has to undercut it. And you would think, it sounds like he's making it with such confidence. Somebody who is uninclined might think that he is very confident, but he already knows that he's talking. He's like, uh-oh, I don't necessarily know where this is going. And we'll run it back. I'll show you exactly the moment where he realized that he's full of shit. But said, no, the bigger impact is going through puberty as a man. That is a fact. But yeah, check this out. So notice that nobody was asking about are sports important to society? Are sports important to people? Nobody mentioned anything about that. But
I think play a much bigger impact on what sports are when
I think, hold on, wait.
The woman. world record
Okay.
were pretty much the same when she was competing as a man versus competing as a woman. And so I think a lot of other biological factors outside of hormones, we think play a much bigger impact on what sports are, when really the only difference that tends to happen is hormones and the way you can build muscle mass.
So do you think there are biological?
So really the only difference is the muscle mass, but that's not really the only difference. There's bone density. There's fast twitch muscle fiber. There's so many differences, but he knows that. So he has to undercut his argument as he is making it. Obu said, and since I reject hormone blockers or cross-sex hormones for youth, then there is zero place for trans women in female sports. Love it. Yep. Center of gravity and body fat. All of that stuff makes a difference.
Biological differences between people born men and people born women.
So there's some, but
On
if
average.
you look at it on average,
There's some. I mean, I guess if we're gonna get technical, I guess there's differences if we have to get technical.
yes. But if you look at it, most people fall into a window of if you saw their skeleton, you wouldn't be able to tell if they were a man or a woman.
He's not about to say this, is he? No, come on, bro. You know better than this, right?
Fall into a window of if you saw their skeleton, you wouldn't be able to tell if they were a man or a woman because they don't fall to either extreme.
That's just patently false. That is patently false. We know for a fact that we can tell the sex of a skeleton based on the bones. On the that's literally one of the examples that a Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh uses all the time because of how obvious it is. They can tell the difference. Well-versed. He's well-versed. One photo says, you can tell them from the hip bones of every human skeleton. It's not hard. Exactly. But he's well-versed, guys. He's well-versed. Open says, and this is the problem. This statement, if it gets challenged at all, won't be strong enough. All right, let's see. That's a strong claim. Let's see if it comes.
And wouldn't be able to tell if they were a man or a woman because they don't fall to either extreme. And so, for example, like
you can see in his face that he's like, "Wait a minute, that's bullshit." But number one, that's not exactly the point of this game for him to push back. We need somebody, we need the girl to push back because unfortunately, that's not the role that Peter Boghossian is playing.
Like Taco Fall, UCF's own, was a 7'6" basketball player. Whether he's competing against men or women, he's the tallest person.
I just want to make sure I understand this.
You're talking a lot.
This is a complicated, controversial. I want to get it right. So if people look at a skeleton, and I'm not paleontologist, but if paleontologists look at skeletons, they can't tell if they're men or women.
Not always. I mean, there's ways.
Not
if you
always.
Test the bone.
Now it's not always. Sometimes you can, but not always. Before he said you can't. Now sometimes you can.
But just from looking at it, it's not like my skeleton. Well, I'm a 6 foot tall man, but let's say I was a 5'6" tall man. They just from looking at me would not be able to tell, is this a man or this is a woman?
Okay, so now it's only short people. I told you, this guy was hedging his bet as he was making it. He was hedging his argument as he was saying, and I caught it. I told you, as I literally could have had a crystal ball here. They know they are full of shit, and they have a little bit that they can go on. But once they see that, I actually have to go into this. I actually have to talk about this. I actually have to explain this. Then comes the mental gymnastics. Well, what sports are supposed to be anyway. What sports really are in society. Well, sometimes. Well, they can sometimes, but not always. And every single time. Why are you people all exactly the same? I said, I disagree. I think it is anyone involved job to push back on misinformation. I don't disagree, but I'm saying the point of this thing is not for him to have these conversations. It's to foster the conversations between the people. So if he's taking sides, then, that's not going to foster a conversation. like it's not your job to it's not your job to pick the video for this stream. Like we need a video to watch for the stream, but that's just not your role. He dug his own hole for sure. Obis said, this is what dishonest people do. They start with a strong lie and only concede if they are pressed on it, and concede as little as possible. Yep. First, it was, you can't tell. Then it was, well, you can't tell sometimes, but sometimes you can. It's like, well, you can tell for me and most men, but if you're a short man and you have a big hips, or if you're a tall woman with small hips, then maybe they might be able to, maybe.
What?
Or you could just be honest. I'm well versed on this. Are you though? Are you though?
Tall man. They just from looking at me would not be able to tell, is this a man or this is a woman, because we're the same height, probably have similar skeletal structures. And the only difference was the muscle mass that we were able to have, which, as you can see, just because you're assigned a male at birth doesn't mean you build a lot of muscle mass.
Whoa. Do we have the real Peter Boghossian in the building? Welcome to the party. Oh my goodness. Love your work. Thank you so much for stopping by. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the party. Yeah, I was just saying, I love the way you do these things. I love that you do a great job of moderating and making sure that you can foster these kind of conversations and have the people talk to each other, not jump in with your own opinions. So thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for stopping by. Oh, much appreciated. Thank you for all of your work. You are great. Thank you so much.
So you believe that biological advantages can be sufficiently mitigated by, I don't know, hormones or surgery?
Yeah, and I think it would be unfair to make someone who goes through those compete in the women's division outside of, the moral and social arguments behind it. Leah Thomas's times went down significantly. She was so much closer to her women counterparts than she was.
Obviously not far enough though, right? Because she was winning.
Do you have
let her
bottom
know.
surgery?
I don't know that for a fact.
I know it for a fact because unfortunately we can see the bulge.
I don't know the answer.
I asked him if she had bottom surgery. I mean, the
Like,
below the
yeah.
waist surgery.
Hell no.
Do you know?
I don't know, but I don't think that'll play much
Google
of a
it.
factor because it's what is it? It's the hormones themselves that do the changes in the body.
Okay. Let me ask. Did he say anything to you, or to you, that persuaded you to move to the disagree line?
No,
Make sure you tell him.
I know. No,
What-
you
Yeah,
didn't.
tell him. You just spewed a bunch of bullshit. I know in your class that you had to read that in your book and you just, kind of regurgitated it, but you didn't actually say anything. You were just saying things.
What would he have? What data, reason, facts, or information would you have to hear? And I'm not saying he can provide it, but
No,
I'm saying
yeah.
would you have to hear that would cause you to move one line to the disagree?
I don't think there is
Ooh.
any.
There's no.
So typically, you would definitely want to have the open-mindedness to change your opinion with new information. So, I mean, again, the claim being that trans women should be allowed in women's sports. I think the only thing that would change my mind is to understand that all the information that we have about bone density, fast twitch muscle fiber, all of that stuff was wrong. If all that stuff was wrong, then that's what I would need. And that's a tall order. Omen says, you would have to prove to me that there's no significant difference in what happens to men and women when they go through puberty. Exactly. And I mean, hey, what do we say? Believe nothing except that anything is possible. But it's a pretty tall order.
No information or data.
No.
Okay, so why are you on this line?
I feel like biologically born women should only be able to compete with the women, and then biologically born men should only be able to compete with the men.
Because why?
Bingo.
Peter Boghossian, the Peter Boghossian says correct. Entire disciplines of thought would have to be incorrect. Yeah, that's and that's where as an atheist, that's where I come to with religion as well. That people ask what would it take for you to believe? Because I am open. I am open for anybody to convince me that a God exists. But unfortunately, you'd have to prove to me that, like, even if there was a figure that came down and said, "I am God, you should now believe in me." How do I know that I'm not, tripping balls on this, that, or the other? How do I know that there's not some alien that is acting like God? How do I know that we're not in a simulation? All of these things, and it's just it's too much to think about in a way that is reasonable. So yes, it is possible. Is it though? Hey, we got Dr. Evil Genius in the building. Welcome to the party. He said, I'm so mad I'm missing this. I have to work with a client right now. Salute to the subject of tonight's review, Peter Boghossian. Welcome, Dr. Evil. Mark says, closer to her woman counterpoints. That statement says it all. Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Evil Genius. Definitely go check out the Talking Shit podcast. Just drop the link in the chat there. Awesome YouTuber as well. All right, let's where were we?
I feel like biologically born women should only be able to compete with the women, and then biologically born men should only be able to compete with the men.
Because why?
I feel like what he said about the different body
Tell
mass,
him.
muscle mass. Oh, sorry, I forgot he came.
That's okay.
Different body mass.
I forgot you were even here. I would think that the when it goes back to him, he's gonna say something along the lines of, well, men, the man and woman thing is arbitrary anyway, because there's strong women and there's weak men. But we have to have that line somewhere. So I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I'm anticipating that is where the overall dude is gonna go.
Muscle mass. I do understand that they do take hormone blockers to help with that, but I still feel like there may be some sort of disadvantage. I feel like just because there was people whose stats did go down, that doesn't mean it's the case for everybody.
So, and I don't want, if I'm not getting this right, tell me.
Okay.
So you think that even if you're on hormones and you have the surgery, some advantage for the biological male remains, and if advantage for the biological male remains, that means that it's unfair. Did I get that right?
Yes, I don't have I don't know the science specifically behind what could be an advantage, but I don't think that there's.
All right, here we go. I already know.
Tell him.
I think there still would be. I forget. I know. I
already know what he's gonna say. He's gonna go right to that.
Think there would still be some sort of an advantage because I feel like everyone's different.
And if he could show you, or someone standing in line could show you that there was no advantage, would you move?
If there was no advantage?
No advantage. Like if he could show you that you had X number of years of hormones and total surgery and there's absolutely no advantage.
If there was absolutely no advantage, then we don't need the distinction of men and women. Fine. If there was absolutely no advantage, then yes, I would say do away with men and women's sports altogether, and let's just do everything co-ed because there's no advantage. But then we wouldn't need the women's sports for trans women to be playing it.
Do women on testosterone react the same as men?
Let's just pretend. Let's pretend we have a wand and we wave it.
Yeah, like it's like a hypothetical.
A hypothetical.
Hypothetical question. Okay. Maybe.
Maybe. So you'd be willing to move to disagree.
What are we even talking about?
No, I'm not. Don't move because I don't.
Move.
Because I can't. No, because I can't provide you with that. I'm saying like if hypothetically, if someone could provide you with that there's no advantage, you would be willing to move. Okay. What would it take you to move?
All right.
To the
Here we
agree?
go.
What would you have to hear? What reason, data, evidence, etc.
All right, guys. Let's just take a deep breath. We know it's going to be some BS. But we got this.
Well, first of all, I think there'd have to be like financial implications on the line, because if we're just talking high school, like that's supposed to be just something enjoyable and competitive. And I think it's kind of.
Is it no? What do you think a scholarship is, my friend? So already you have not even finished your first sentence and you're already full of shit.
Ridiculous what we're seeing happening in like our state right now, where they're not allowing anyone at any stage in high school to do that.
Wait a second. Let's not go on, please.
Yeah.
When you say they're not allowing anybody to do that, do you mean they're not allowing trans men to participate in men's that they're not allowing people who are
So we all get confused. They do that on purpose.
born with vaginas who have transitioned to men to participate in men's sports? Are they not allowing that?
To my knowledge, the bills go both ways. They're obviously intended for a specific way. They're obviously coming from the sexist perspective of anyone who is born with male genitalia is going to be inherently better at sports, which like.
Yeah, so Oba's saying he is wrong. High school is the most important when it in terms of money. You have to be on that track in order to be a professional. You have to be on that track from high school. I mean, there's sports where that's not necessarily the case. I mean, I'm a big UFC fan, and you definitely don't have to be, anything in high school to be a UFC fighter. But the people who have been wrestling since they were in grade school, they certainly do a lot better. That's just the way that that sports work. The longer that you're working at it, the better you're going to be. So if you're trying to get a scholarship to get into the NBA, you can't have started playing basketball last week. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah, he just wants to be different. That's the sexist perspective, right? Exactly.
Isn't true.
Isn't it though?
It's not true, period, or it's not true on average, or it's not true. What do you mean?
Well, it's not true in the ways that I don't want it to be true because I just want to win.
I mean, if we wanted to go by averages, like most sports, not all sports, there's some sports like gymnastics or, certain aspects of that where people who are assigned female at birth tend to perform better.
Assigned female at birth?
But in the majority of sports that are played in America, men on average tend to be better. But that doesn't mean that the 99th percent of women isn't, better than probably the 95th percent of men.
This is it. I told you guys. This is the argument that he's going for. This is the argument that he's going for. He's going to talk about somebody like Serena Williams or a what's his name, the swimmer, Michael Phelps or someone like that. Like, well, they're not on a level playing field because they're so much better than the. But we have to draw the line somewhere. And we drew the line at the most obvious thing. On averages. That's how you started your whole thing. Well, if we look on averages, on average, the best indicator for making a level playing field is separating it by gender, men and women. Oba says this stuff is destroying young women athletes in high school. They should not be expected to deal with this nonsense and is teaching them that opportunities can be taken from them, no matter how hard they work. Yeah, I mean, all of this, for years and years and years, we're hearing about, the patriarchy, and I can't get a job, and I can't do this. And then finally, you're doing great and swimming, and you're doing all this. And Leah Thomas comes in, and nothing. This is all fine. No patriarchy going on here. Hey, we got the goblin sausage in the building. Welcome to the party. Saying amazing to see the real Pete B up in here, and indeed it is. I'm a little nervous, but hopefully he's giving me some grace here. Welcome to the party, goblin sausage.
And so
I want to hear this in full.
Mean that the 99th percent of women isn't, better than probably the 95th percent of men. And so to answer the question of what it would take for me to go to agree.
Finally.
I don't know. I mean, I obviously shared a lot of like facts about how I don't think it's all that different.
Did you know?
And there's that. But then also I think it just makes sense that if we're going to be splitting sports up based off of gender, then we're going to act in accordance with gender. And if people especially are going to physically transition, then I don't see any problem with it. I don't know how I could shift my opinion.
Okay, so you don't know how you could shift your opinion. What if the facts that you discussed today are incorrect? And what if I could show you to your satisfaction that they're incorrect? Or maybe she could show you to your satisfaction. Would you change your mind?
I mean, if the facts were different,
the
then
facts-
yes, I would probably change my mind. I think I would still probably be weary on it, because if we're going back to prior questions,
Notice how the girl was saying, well, I mean, I don't really know how you would change my mind, but yeah, if you could wave a magic wand, then sure. But he is even saying, like, yes, if the facts were different, I would still be weary. That's dogma. That's dogma, my friend. You have gone out of the area of logic and rationality if you are saying, well, if the facts were different, I would still be weary on it. Because I know I'm correct because I read it in a book.
I do think trans women are women, trans men are men. That's something I believe. But that the sports conversation is a hyper-specific conversation. So if the stats on it were different, I would have to reevaluate. But I doubt that I would just immediately go to strongly disagree.
Okay, so if the facts you presented could be shown to be false, for example, if you transition, there is still, with hormones, et cetera, after a certain period of time, there is still a vestige of advantage, and that makes it unfair. If it could be shown to your satisfaction that were true, you would move at least one line over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a crazy person. If facts were different, I would change my opinions based off of those facts.
I mean, that's what he says, apparently. And yeah, what world does this guy live in? Unfortunately, the real world where a lot of people think exactly the way he does. Exactly the way he does. And without the opportunity for that position or the positions like that to be adequately critiqued and us pushing back, then more and more and more and more and more people are going to think this way. He's obviously, somewhat well read on aspects of this. That, he's not a dumb guy. That's obvious. But the problem is that he is so far down the ideological dogmatic hole that it needs somebody who understands that level of the dogma to be able to argue him out of it, if he is ever going to be argued out of it. Now, I don't necessarily think that arguing people out of their positions is, really something that is realistic. But if you can show people that the basis of what the sourcing of your information is not as strong and trusty as you think. Exactly. Thank you, Peter Boghossian. He has read things that are false, and it's all been idea laundered. That's a good. I like that. I like that phrase, idea laundered. I like to use the term semantic obfuscation, where you can take words and kind of twist them and move them around, and whatever it means in the moment or whatever you need it to mean in the moment is what it means. And this idea of gender is the perfect place for that, to just mold it and not have any real ideas, and more importantly, not have any real principles. That's what it comes down to, is that he is trying to talk about the what should be fair in sports, but without any principles behind what he actually thinks, then it's not fair at all. He's not achieving the goal that he wants to achieve. He wants more fairness, but without understanding what really is fair and why that is fair, you can't achieve more of it. Yeah, I think he's talking about like a percentile. I'm like the strongest person, or the best at the sport and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I said. The fact that there's super strong women and the fact that there's super weak men. That's what he's playing on. It's like, well, it's all arbitrary anyway. All right, well, let's see. I'm not crazy. I would obviously change my opinion based on the
facts that were already on my side. If those change, then there's facts, in my opinion, in most political issues on both sides. I don't think this is really one of those, but most of the time there are facts on both sides. If all of the facts on my side disappeared, then naturally I would have to go to the other side.
Okay, so I'm going to ask. I'm coming to you in a second, but
spot on, Opus.
What percentage of first place prizes would Leah Thomas need to win to change your level of agreement?
I mean, probably all of them, right? Like she won one event and then didn't place in a bunch of the other ones and maybe medaled in another event, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And there are athletes like Ryan Lochte and Michael Phelps and
Called it! Oh, hit the nail on the head. I told you. You know exactly what these people think because they all think exactly the same. Well, it doesn't really matter because there's people who are exceptions, so we shouldn't have a rule. There's exceptions, so the rule doesn't matter.
What?
That's what they think. Let's do it again.
I mean, ones and maybe medaled in another event, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And there are athletes like Ryan Lochte and Michael Phelps, and for that matter, Katie Ledecky, who is competing in women's sports. Katie Ledecky holds the top 25 world records for the 800 meter in women's swimming. No one's saying that she should go have to compete with the men just because her natural physical advantages combined with the fact that she's gotten good coaching and good training and good practice and a good work ethic have led her to absolutely dominate everyone else in the entire world.
Because she's a woman. She's in the women's category. It's a category for women. It's not a category for testosterone levels. It's not a category for anything except women. So yes, we acknowledge that despite the fact that we made these categories to try to make it fair, there are going to be anomalies within this category or any other, but we have to have a line, a category somewhere. Or again, if you just want to have, if you don't care about women, then you can say every sport's co-ed and men will just dominate. But that's the only way that women get a fair chance. That doesn't mean that just because there are women who are anomalies, that it's completely unfair to all women, or it is equally as unfair to let those anomalies in, as well as letting any man. Then it's no longer an anomaly. That's just going to become the norm. Exactly. That's what a category is. Whatever the constraints are, we go by those constraints. If you're in those constraints, you're good to go, sweetie. They make it so much more complicated than it needs to be.
But no one cares because she was born with a vagina. Leah
Correct.
Thomas wins one collegiate tournament, not
With a dick.
even a gold medal, one collegiate tournament, and we're acting like that's something that we'd care about. And
Yes, that is something that we'd care about because you're creating these categories that we have. They're breaking down.
it's
And
only
so
because she's transgender.
You think that's a form of misogyny?
I do think that comes from misogyny because what else is the assumption there, right? Because if the argument isn't just this is unfair, because if the argument was just this is unfair and this is the division for people who are better and this is the division for people who are worse, like we're trying to pretend it is, Katie Ledecky would have to compete with Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte rather than the other women.
Okay, so
Obviously, as we just went over, that's not the case because of categories.
why would that be misogyny rather than transphobia?
So it's both. I'm never pretending like any of these issues are just one thing, but to talk about why it's
Multiple
specifically
things.
misogyny, the assumption here is men are better at sports.
And that's a false assumption.
That's a false assumption to make.
Got him. So we're going to go ahead and say that men are not better at sports.
What?
Pretty sure. Like, I'm 5'4". I'm pretty athletic for my size, but not going to be amazing in the NBA. But you really, we're going to try and say that men are not better at sports? Come on, bro.
Like universally, if we want to do it on averages, sure. Is the average NBA player better than the average WNBA player? Yes, none of them would deny that. Most of the great WNBA players would say they'd get beat by any of the NBA players. But that
Why do you think that is, sir? Because they would. Like we've said, and presumably this guy is working towards a degree to do a job that will affect people in the real world. Danger!
that doesn't mean that they're not great within their own right. And if one of them was absolutely dominating, but they were born a woman, we wouldn't tell them to go compete with the men. That would be ridiculous.
Got it. Okay, let's reset.
All
So
right.
you said something I
okay.
want to.
Whew, that guy, I'm glad this guy came in because he has given us a lot. All right, resetting. Let's see what is the new prompt.
I want to drill down on. We're gonna do another one. Don't move until I say move. Men are better at sports. 4 than women. 5.
Ooh, men are better at sports than women. So of course, dude's gonna go to. I think he would go to slightly agree. Because he knows the truth. He knows that obviously that is the case. But he has to, like I said, undercut his argument. I think the other two are going to go straight to strongly agree. I think he's going to go to... Would he dare go on the disagree side? I don't know. I could see him staying neutral, but that would be some weak shit. But I think he's going to go slightly agree.
4, 3, 2, 1, move. Men are better at sports than women.
In general?
In general.
Hold it. Slightly disagree.
There's like so many different sports.
Many. Well, then you can stand on the neutral. Men are. Tell us.
Did anybody expect the chick and an overall boy to be on the same thing? Yeah. I speechless. All right. Let's see.
Tell us why you slightly agree.
I feel like a lot of the men,
Tell him in particular.
generally, a lot of the men are bigger, stronger. Again, it does depend on the sport. I'm going to be honest.
Does it? I don't think it does. Name a sport that women are better than men at the same sport. I don't think there is one.
Obviously, there are sports that they have for men and not women. Football, they have like flag football for women. But I don't know if they have. I don't know if they take that to like certain.
Yeah.
Just high school. I
Shout
think.
out to the Camcast.
I think they have certain sports for men and women, but I do think generally men are better at sports depending on the sport.
Tell us why you strongly disagree that men are better at sports than women.
Oh, he went to strongly. He was only on slightly. Now he went all the way over to strongly.
Well, there's so many sports out there. Like, there's so many sports that. Okay, to be fair, I am very uneducated about like the percentage of like how many men are like statistically better than women. So I will say
it's right in that answer. In that answer, you can tell that this guy is trying to he's virtue signaling. He's not answering the question, he's not playing the game. He's trying to do what's going to make him look best. Well, there's so many sports and I don't know the statistics. You don't need to know the statistics. It's a very obvious question. What are sports? What is a man? What is a woman? If you know what all three of those things are, then you don't need statistics. Now, maybe there are some statistics somewhere that say that women are better at sports because of something. But in that case, then you would really only need that would really be only one of these stranger than fiction or the truth is stranger than fiction type things. It's very obvious. Yeah, it's just a general question. You don't need to know statistics. And this it's really sad how, shout out to those of you who remember Anirudh. But people who think that every answer needs to have the rubber stamp of somebody who is an expert, that it has to be in a book somewhere. It has to be said that, an expert, a scientist, an economist, an engineer, whoever it is, that somebody checked off on this, that you can't trust your own intuition. Now, I'm not saying that you should just, go and not read anything. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you have to be able to trust your own intuition. And this kid cannot.
I'm educated about like the percentage of like how many men are like statistically better than women. So I will say that. So knowing that fact that I'm kind of unknown.
Do you do sports yourself?
I don't, but I have done a lot of sports myself. Like I used to be in track and like basketball.
Okay. Do you do sports?
I played a lot as a kid. I watch now. My brother works in sports, so I follow it pretty closely.
Okay. Do you do sports?
I did in high school.
What'd you do?
I played soccer in high school, and then leading up to high school, I did soccer, basketball, and track.
Okay, so men are better at sports than women. Why do you slightly agree?
So if we're talking about like the best of the best, right? Like typically, especially the sports that we care about here, and
The sports that we care about. Which sports are those? That would probably depend on the person, right? Not just like what you care about, right?
maybe this comes from what we were talking about earlier with misogyny, but the sports that we have here that we care about are sports that typically the best players in the world are men. So you look at something like basketball. I heard an interview the other day with a WNBA player. I think her name was Kelsey Plum. She was talking about the fact that if I played one-on-one with pretty much any man in the NBA, he would beat me. They are better. But that's the top 1% of 1% of male basketball players versus the top 1% of 1% of women basketball players. And so do I think I go out to the basketball court and I play against someone who played even high school women's basketball? They'd absolutely trounce me. So it's,
you think you couldn't beat somebody because they played in high school, and let's just say he's 30. That either just means you suck at sports or that they were really good. That doesn't, like, high school basketball is not, unless they were the star. That's not like, no. My sister played high school basketball. It doesn't, like, everything to him is so theoretical, and what the papers say and what the studies say. Just think about it for 1 second and then answer the question. It's oh my God, it's so frustrating. Oprah said Peter asked an in general question, and now this guy adds all the qualifiers. That's the only way he can get it to be what he wants to say. You can't just answer the question, because then his argument will fall apart. In general, men are better than women at sports.
Bingo.
it's not, a strong agree that, universally men are better because they're men. But if we're going like the best of the best.
No, it's not men are better because they are men. It's men are better because they are taller, stronger, faster, so on and so forth. Do you not see the difference between those two statements? Men are better at sports because they're men. And men are better at sports because they have the biological resources to do the things that you need to do in sports. That's what we're talking about. Welcome to the conversation.
Typically in the sports that we have, those tend to be men.
So on average, you slightly agree.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that you slightly agree is because at the extremes specifically, top end, men will outperform women. Is that why?
Yeah, if you look at, races and things like that, whether it be like track or swimming or whatever, by a few seconds or a few percentages of a second, men tend to hold the world records, but most of those are held by men.
Okay.
What?
I would like to
Yeah.
move to slightly disagree.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I did
Oh,
say
You
that
can move anywhere you want. This is a free
Statistically-
country. Go ahead.
statistically, I don't know the statistics of how many men are
This is what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying. The guy, this dude on screen right now, he doesn't really know what's good, and he's open about the fact that he doesn't really know what's good. But overall, boy is talking out his ass, but he's doing it confidently, and has literally convinced this guy to change his opinion. This is why we need to be better at having these conversations. We need to better articulate what we don't understand. We need to be better at saying, okay, what you're saying seems like it would change my mind. I need to be able to pick at this, that, and the other to see if that is the case.
winning in sports than women. So I will go to slightly disagree. All right.
So now I'm going to ask you something.
Yeah.
So this is what's going through my mind when I heard him speak.
Yeah.
And you tell me if this is a reasonable thing to think.
Mhm.
So when I do this, I always think, let's assume that the thing that the person is telling us is true.
Mhm.
What would follow from that?
Okay.
If what he said were true,
Mhm.
and what he said was, and if I got this wrong, let me know. I don't.
a lot.
absolutely do not want to put words in anybody's mouth.
He
If
said
what
a
he said
lot.
was true, the average man and the average woman would be about the same, but at the tops, the peaks, the people who are the elite athletes, the men would beat the women. If that were true, why shouldn't there be co-ed sports categories?
Co-ed meaning.
Meaning men and women, like, I'm looking at the what was that, the touch football, like what, or like as a professional league, or why would you divide, for example?
I wouldn't say this is an example of Dunning-Kruger, because he's not acting like he knows. He's just saying, "Oh, okay, I think you're more right." If you're talking about this dude, then yeah, I disagree. But if you're talking about overall boy, then definitely Dunning-Kruger.
Jiu-jitsu or MMA fights, why shouldn't women participate in amateur MMA? 100%.
Yeah, so it's not that I meant like, let's call it the
More
two.
caveats.
I'm not saying, LeBron James is slightly better than Diana Taurasi. I'm saying that, like, when I'm not just the number one man in the world is
Gotcha.
better than the number one woman. Typically, it would be if we're
Okay, but he thinks he's making an argument here. Yes, the number one man is better than the number one woman, but the number 50 man is better than the number 50 woman, and the number 2,000 man is better than the. There might be, and like when you get to the millions, there might be some scrambling there, but not much. Not much. At the end of the day, whatever percentile of that person, the men are going to do better than the women. Why is it so hard for people to just admit that?
we're getting all of the 250 best basketball players from all over the world. Odds are, at the very minimum, 248 out of those 240 or 250 would be men. So it's not just that, like,
but again, even if you got the worst 250 players in the world, they would all be women. If you got the worst 250 men and the worst 250 women, the men would still win. You're trying to, complicate it and make it seem like you're saying something, but you're not. A dungaree. A loser.
top one is better.
Right, sure.
An entire league's worth of people, and potentially even like a second league's worth of people would be better. But that's also like the top 500 out of billions of people who want to be playing in the NBA.
Sure. So if that were true, and let's accept by fiat that that's true, why don't we just have co-ed sports teams for everything?
Professionally?
No, like amateur, like colleges and stuff. Why don't we just mix?
Even in college, I think there tend to be slight differences. And so I think, one, to make sure that there's the inclusion of women being able to get things like scholarships and access to college through sports is something that's helpful for parity within the university. But
if you had to bet on a sports team with your own money, would you bet that on a team, let's say soccer, would you bet for the best women's team or the average high school boys team?
I would say the best women's team at a high school level.
Wait, I missed the question. Indie Film said, in every physical sport, men are better. Don't blame the patriarchy. Blame Gaia. Good one. This guy torpedoes his whole initial position. That's why he was caveating it from the beginning. That's exactly why. Indie Film said, that's why we have separated sports for men and women, so women can get scholarships. Yeah, big friggin' douchebag. I don't have a good one for that.
Haram!
We'll use that one. So real quick, guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're coming up towards the end of this one. Let's see if we can rack up amongst all of you $5 in super chats. We will go on to another episode of this. Otherwise, we're going to move over to Discord, where the members are gonna get to hang out. Let's see. One of Foe said Porn Stash would lose his bet for sure. All right, I missed the question. I want to see
that. If you had to bet on a sports team with your own money, would you bet that on a team, let's say soccer, would you bet for the best women's team or the average high school boys team?
I would say the best women's team at a high school level.
What would you bet?
Yeah. Okay. That's definitely because we already know that I think it was 90. I don't remember what year, but the Olympic women's soccer team played a high school boys soccer team and lost. Hey, shout out to Unwanted Foe for keeping the show going. Thank you so much. We got one from Morty right there. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Oh, and then right behind him, we got Indie Film. Thank you so much. Let's get a nice, big, chunky one. He very much appreciates it, guys. Thank you so much. Said woof woof on the deck, enjoying the show. Then let's keep it going. Thank you so much, Indie Film.
The women's team, like professionally, versus the high school boys.
Yes.
Oh, the women's team professionally.
Wait, what was the question? It was
If you had to bet with your own money, not my money, on it's very easy to bet with someone else's money. If you had to bet with your own money on either a college girls soccer team.
Shout out again to Indie Film for sponsoring the stream, and big thank you to Unwanted Foe. Indie Film says they played a U15 boys team and lost. Oh, under 15. Yeah, it's under 15 or 14-year-olds. That's biology, baby. That's biology.
Or a high school boys team. Which would you bet on to win?
who would win?
Yeah.
The men's team, I would think.
Huh.
And I am going to slightly disagree, and I say that because I feel like the word was the
Because I'm confused.
question wasn't worded too well, because I feel like more often than not, in the physical sports, I feel like men I would be better.
college women's team versus high school men's team though.
Like college women's team.
They keep bringing up this physical thing, but I don't know many female chess grandmasters. It's not just physical. I'll just leave that there.
Versus high school, college.
Yeah.
College versus women. Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
What is it? I would say
You've been out here for like an hour, man. So it's okay.
that is true. College women.
Okay, cool. Hey, thank you.
I don't think he actually thinks that. I think the fact that he was like confused and by the question, and then they were like telling him, no, it's this, and the fact that they were on the other side, he just said that, okay, yeah, then the college women.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you guys had fun.
All right.
I would have done
So-
it in 2 minutes, but I gotta give a talk.
Same. So we are in Hyde Park, Australia for this one. Again, a big shout out to Peter Boghossian for traveling the world and bringing us this awesome content and these great conversations.
Time, we should no longer use the word gender. Don't go up. We should no longer use the word gender.
All right. So that is the prompt number 1 for this one. We should no longer use the word gender. We should no longer use it. Should we use it? I don't think there's an issue with us using it. But if you ask me, should we get rid of the word entirely? I would be like, I mean, it can't hurt. Can't hurt. Interesting. Okay. I'm not really sure where their minds are gonna go. Let's see what they say.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move.
All right.
Can I say what you shared with us before? Mm-hmm. So you shared with us that you're trans, is that right?
That's correct.
And what does that mean, first of all?
It means I have a gender identity that is not reflective of biological sex.
And I don't mean to be daft. I'm trying to explain, because people are going to try to figure that out. What does that mean?
It means that a word like gender helps explain nuances in the world of men and women, boys and girls.
So this is going to be interesting, because not only do we have a trans person here, But we have some older people, and I'm curious about how, you know, I assume that they're not using social media in the same way that younger people are. So I'm curious how that is going to affect the conversation. And I would say that it might be a little bit dry if it was just older people, but the fact that it's older people and a trans person, we're gonna have that kind of both sides, so to speak. That'll be interesting. Anyone says we should not sacrifice language to the woke. We should not give up control of language to the maniacs. I like that one. I like that one. You have convinced me, sir. You have convinced me.
What is when you hear the word gender? What does that mean? What is that like? How would you define that?
That's usually, in my view, that's usually a reference to gender identity. So,
Okay.
for lack of a better phrase, a sense of what one perceives is biological sex, but we're not calling it biological sex.
So if a person is born with a penis, they can have a gender that's female. Is that accurate?
Something like that, yes.
What could I say that would have been more articulate, that have described that better?
I'm a trans woman is what would be the accurate way to say that.
I think it's one of those topics that being articulate for anyone, even myself, can be difficult because
Definitely.
everyone has different experiences in how they perceive gender/sex, and it's a very personal experience. And because it's a very personal experience, people will think that people have perceptions of others' perceptions, which to get everyone on the same page can be particularly difficult.
I'm curious if she's going to come back to that. It's very difficult to articulate, and if she's going to use that, because she doesn't seem like somebody who is, again, we talk all the time about the difference between the activists and just the normal people. And she just seems like a normal person who happens to be trans. She doesn't seem like one of these activists. I don't know yet. Could be wrong. But it'll be interesting to see if she goes back on this idea of, that it's different for everybody. And we're like, oh, well, this is what I think. This is my truth and stuff like that. Be very interesting. Any film says, so this just shows that people are wrapped up in this ideology, cannot have a clear definition of anything at all. Their minds have been reduced to friggin' jello.
Bingo.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to go back all the way over here. Now you got to you can come over here. So we should no longer use the word gender, and you're on the strongly agree, and you're playing the game, right? One foot to each side of the line. So thank you. So tell us why.
I love that he has to. I love that he has to say not only don't move until I say, but has 1 foot on either side of the line. Because you probably have people that are like, meandering. They'll go to one side of the line's here. They'll stand here and they'll kind of like meander and then go over. Like, what are you saying, bro? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Why you think that?
Well,
Tell them.
Shout out to Dietrich. Welcome to the party. So did you ever have a gender that you wish you could be anything?
what?
I think so.
Why?
Well, so they
Welcome
can hear
to the
you.
party,
All right.
brother.
Okay. So the idea is this. I mean, science is already in the state of being destroyed, right? It's being,
Facts.
we're arguing about climate change or not climate change.
Based.
Nothing is resolved. In the old days, science meant knowledge. It didn't mean ambiguity. It didn't mean argument without resolution. We resolved everything, right? So what we have is a human being, as you mentioned before. He's born with a penis, or she's born with a vagina.
Correct.
That is material evidence.
Material evidence for what?
The fact that that person exists.
True or true.
And the person has an identity. He was born with a certain mother and a father. He was born in a religion. He was born in a culture. He's got a language. He's got a station in life.
Yes.
So that's their whole identity.
Okay.
Well, and that's science, because it's logical fact. It's material fact.
This guy is interesting. I'm not really sure. I'm not really trying to get a read on him, and he's got a lot to say. I'm just not sure how much of it is based in anything real?
People change their religion. There's a word for it, apostasy.
Well, they could go against the religion, and they could be apostate. They could be anti-theist. I don't accept the word atheist.
Right, correct, right.
Atheist is completely bullshit. It's just like gender.
Okay, so
All right, Saint Michael.
So I'm missing you. So connect for me so I can understand climate change to gender. I'm not making that link.
Well, climate change is currently being argued for 70 years without resolution. That's not science.
Right.
Science will give you a resolution, like the laws of physics. Like something is male or something is female. It's absolutely self-evident. It's not something you can argue about. If you argue against reality, it means you're insane.
Okay, what if somebody, and I'm not saying this is your position, I'm doing the best that I can given the difficult topic. What if somebody is born with a penis?
Well, so we're actually just talking about that, and we actually had Peter Boghossian in the chat, which, you know, that's a milestone for me. But, you know, the idea of what he's doing is to foster conversation between the participants, not for him to be the person that is arguing with what is being said. So he is not trying to you know, convince anyone of anything. He's just trying to get their positions and then bring that to the other people playing the game.
And they say, you know what? I feel like I'm born in the body of someone who has a vagina.
So they need help because they're obviously mentally ill.
Haram! Okay, so there are we can acknowledge that there are people who are like this, who feel like this.
They're not normal people. They're mentally ill people. If you say I don't have a nose, look at me. I don't have a nose. I mean, it's going to be pretty idiotic, right? How are you going to deal with me like a sane person and work with me with a job? And, you know,
if you're running around saying you don't have a nose.
Right. How about if I say I'm a fence post? I identify as a fence post.
Okay.
I'm straight up and down and I'm 6 feet tall. I'm a fence post. And don't you dare call me anything else except fence post.
Okay. What do you think of what he has to say?
Oh yeah.
Tell him so he can hear.
Sure.
Why would I just a quick nitpick for Peter here? Maybe near a fountain, although it looks beautiful, it's not the best for a conversation.
Of course, there is a bodily reality, bodily material, a physical reality. That's not to say it's not to say that it's wrong or should be ignored.
What do you have to say about the claim that he is acknowledging, correct me if I'm wrong, that some people legitimately do say, I was born with a penis, but I feel I was born in the wrong body. No, but I'm saying people feel like that. Okay. What do you have to say about the claim that is a mental disorder?
It's one way of describing it.
That's
probably
your
what's
truth.
more important is how do we best deal with it? And so
Okay, how do we deal with it? Do we have those individuals get psychological help?
And see, that's a perfect example. That I don't necessarily think that Peter agrees that it's more important to just focus on the solutions. But what he's doing here is not trying to. And again, Dietrich, I know that you weren't saying this, but I just want to you know, tie a little bow on this. That he's not here to argue against that. He's here to, okay, if that's what you're saying, then how do we help these people to get it out of her, instead of just because, you know, maybe she would say that, and then if he went right back to the other guy, then he would have something, and they'd be talking past each other. So he's doing a good job of facilitating that. Is that a pro-life shirt? I am for life. If that's what it says, I am for life. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is.
Do we say, yes, you are in that body and we need to help you physically transition to be in that body? Do we ignore them? I mean, what ought society's response to that to be?
So in an earlier life of mine, there were attempts to
An earlier life.
convince me that I shouldn't transition genders. That the way I'm thinking, I shouldn't think like that. But it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for me. But what has worked for me is medically transitioning.
And what do you mean by worked?
See, notice how we've moved from we should help these people to this is what worked for me. Those are not the same thing. And specifically when we're talking about gender, gender affirmation and medically transitioning, we definitely don't want to go down the road of even if it was correct for you, that's certainly not what we want to be pushing as the standard. Why are we talking about you? You just said we should be, instead of focusing on whether or not it's a mental health issue, we should be focusing on how to help those people. That's where we started. Remember? Let's go.
I'm familiar. So, in an earlier life of mine, there were attempts to.
Oh, I didn't realize how far back she went. But you watched it.
Let's say convince me that I shouldn't transition genders. That the way I'm thinking, I shouldn't think like that. But it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for me. But what has worked for me is medically transitioning.
And what do you mean by worked? You mean you feel better now?
Correct. I've never been able to be convinced that I should continue living life as my biological sex.
I was going to say, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that you're not getting much from her. You should get the response from them. So right there with them. Any Film says, Buck Angel has come out against transing the kids. Shout out to Buck Angel. St. Michael was trying to give me shit based on Buck Angel in the Discord, but not going to work. If you are trans, but you're against trans and the kids, you are all right with me. And if you think that makes me gay, then okay. And if you think that's a weird statement, head on over to Discord because it gets weird over there. Opus says, I'm okay with transitioning being an option. I believe that mental therapy should be required first, but I also acknowledge that I'm not a professional in any relevant field. Yeah, I mean, I think the uproar would not be as crazy as it was if we didn't have things like, I mean, we knew from way back at least a year ago when What is a Woman came out, but certainly more recently where there's a number of detransitioners who come out and said, on the first day they were pushing this on me. Then the Daily Wire did their thing where dude got his letter of recommendation for surgery in 22 minutes. It's just the stopgaps, the barriers to entry, the what did you say? That mental therapy that should be required. That is just not there. If that was there, then number one, we wouldn't have so many people detransitioning. And number two, we very likely wouldn't be talking about this so much because it wouldn't be such an issue in the first place. Teacher says, absolutely, the climate of discussion between people is so polarized and volatile. No one has a straight shot answer when the question is presented because we all hide in our egos writing attack points. Well, that's what I say. Stop trying to win an argument and just have the conversation. Said it also needs to be acknowledged that there's a real fetish with parents pushing their kids onto this stuff. Yep. Remember, we were talking about this in the context of Munchausen by proxy, where you might be just some middle-aged suburban mom who doesn't have really anything special about her. You're an average person, which is not anything bad, but you're not special. And so in order to be special, you trans your kid. And now you're getting all that attention for that when you're not really thinking about the well-being of your child. You're just thinking about me. Is it good for me? Hey, we got Jeff Pearson in the building. Welcome. So it seems like the only behavioral health care that allowed is affirming. Unfortunately, true. Unfortunately. All right.
What
so
do you
let's
think-
see. So, trans woman has not been saying much. Let's see what our boy has to say.
About that.
Well,
Tell them.
the problem is that they won't accept that they're mentally ill, right? The idea is if you're born with a penis and you don't identify as male, there's something wrong, right? So
Right. So we're all agreeing there's something wrong. The question is, what should be done about it?
Well, the thing to be done about it when we're working with people who are mentally ill is to have compassion on them and to treat them, not to accept what they say. Because when you accept what you say, you're validating their insanity.
Okay.
You're not helping the person.
Okay. So correct me if I don't want to put words into your mouth. So if please don't let me do that. So
What I have the proper name. The proper name is not, they call it gender dysphoria because I'm saying gender is bullshit. You can't have the gender dysphoria. Science is about knowledge. Knowledge is permanent, okay? The person we are talking about has a penis and that's a permanent truth. So the idea is that basically we shouldn't be believing what they say. We should take absolute biological truth. Because
Okay.
That's what it is. Let me
Right.
finish.
Okay.
So the proper term is sex dysphoria, not gender dysphoria. The reason is this: gender is fluid. Gender is an ideology. It's not a fact. It's not a real fact. You can have
because you can perform gender, like Judith Butler says, like you can
you can do whatever you want, and
Yeah.
you can not only that, it keeps changing. The fact that it keeps changing, like a person's one. Facebook has something like 140 genders, and people openly say we want to change the gender. I used to be this, and now I'm that. Well, that's insane.
Okay, let's
That is
go
insane.
to the neutral. Let's reset.
All right, resetting. All right, what do we got here? Any film says exactly, my friend. Indulging someone in their delusions does not help them. Owen says it is healthy to affirm that someone holds a belief that does not align with reality. It is not healthy for the next step to be to help them to affirm that delusion. Zig says today's social media is daily consumption and easily used for social engineering. Oh, we know that all too well, right? All right, let's see what the next prompt is.
Everyone's gender identity should be affirmed. Don't move.
Jeff says science, facts, objectivity, hearsay. That's pretty much where we're at. But everyone's gender identity should be affirmed. I mean, we already got a couple people saying no. And again, we're not, we are not, looking to these conversations to get any, amazing, groundbreaking ideas that we had never heard before. It's about how normal people actually think about this stuff and how they talk about this stuff.
Everyone's gender identity should be affirmed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Okay, tell him way down there why you slightly agree.
So that's interesting that she says slightly agree. I'm hoping what she's going to say is that, there are people like her who, sex change surgery is appropriate, but it's not for everyone and it shouldn't be pushed as it is. I'm hoping, but we'll see.
I slightly agree because it's not just self-identification, it's also how we live together in society. So if we had not had this conversation and I walked down the street fair, I dare say most people, maybe not every single person, but I dare say most people would make a few quick assumptions about me without knowing who I am. So because of dress, presentation,
Get to the point.
effects of medical transition, etc., without knowing me, will probably make a snap judgment that that's probably a woman. They're probably not going to think to themselves, well, that's a woman. Not sure that woman's trans or cisgender, but that looks like a woman, and I'm just going to carry on with life because, I'm busy going to the bakery or what have you.
Here's the thing, sweetie. You've added a couple of extra steps to that. We just say, I'm going to go on with my life. Nobody is walking down the street looking at you and being curious of what you are and what you have in your pants. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about anybody. People care about themselves. This idea that people are questioning who, you know, what gender you are as you're walking down the street. It's not happening. This is terminally online bullshit. People don't think like that. They just think about themselves. That's crazy to think that everybody is, as you're walking down the street, everybody thinks that or is thinking about what your gender is. Nobody cares. Exactly, Ziggs.
Okay, so why are you not? So everyone's gender identity should be affirmed. You're not on the agree or strongly agree. So that must mean that you believe that not everybody's gender identity should be affirmed. Whose gender identity should not be affirmed?
The people whose gender identity doesn't align with their biology.
I've taken this position because I believe the affirmation of gender identity should be cautious. There should be a cautious approach. Now, what I mean by that is, if, say, I never medically transitioned and I look like you or him or any other man here right now, and then all of a sudden one day I woke up and just decided I expect that the whole world will affirm my gender and I'm just not going to put any effort into it, then that's not particularly convincing.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So she was basically saying that, you know, if you just because you wake up one day and expect people or want people to think of you in a certain way doesn't mean that it is. You have to take reality into account. She said that's not particularly convincing. That's taking into account the perspective of outside people, of the quote unquote normal people. Any film said this whole thing is about the likes of victimhood, the victimhood generation. Exactly. Likes, clout, attention. That's all it is. That's all it is, guys.
Everyone's gender identity should be affirmed. Tell them why you strongly disagree.
Because, continue on what I said before, if you understand that the person is detached from physical reality and that therefore they're insane, you need to help them. We have mental health facilities to help these people. People who are mentally ill kill themselves. It's not that we cause their suicide. It's their mental illness that causes suicide.
Okay.
So Dietrich says, not enough that people accept or go on with their lives not knowing my gender. Each person who looks in my direction must know and accept that I'm trans. Ego is a funny thing. Yep. It's not enough that people accept or go on with their life knowing my gender. Each person who looks in my direction must know and accept that I'm trans.
All of the mentally ill, not just the ones with sex dysphoria.
So
the point about strongly disagreeing is if you affirm their insane proposition, you're making them feel reinforced in their insanity. What we should do is hold our sanity and say, listen, you need help.
Okay, let's say
psychotherapy or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I'm not a psychotherapist.
So I'm gonna give you something that you haven't asked for.
Okay.
There are 100 people. 99 of those 100 people can be quote unquote helped. In other words, to identify their gender with sex. their to identify. Okay.
We don't want gender because it's fluid and
it's
a concept.
So
and it's
based.
not real.
They say you. So 99%, 99 out of 100 people, they say, you know, we thought this, we now realize this is not the case. But what about that one person? What about that 1 in 100 case in which somebody says, you know what, I've been very sincere. I've gone through medical and psychological help. I've tried to do this. And I still, even though I was born with a penis, I feel deeply, deeply. I've gone through thousands of hours of counseling. I've seen psychiatrists.
See, I believe that these people exist. I don't think it is anywhere close to the number of people who claim to be part of the LGBT community, specifically, you know, those who are, you know, claiming to be, the gender side of it. But actually, let me ask you guys. So, what he is describing, we're going to call a real trans person, somebody who actually suffers from gender dysphoria, and their lived experience would be helped by presenting as the opposite gender. Do those people exist? Do quote real trans people exist? All right. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know.
Colleges, what are those things where you
Well,
sit in
2
groups?
points.
Yeah. And they're just like, no, I want to transition.
Well, who cares what they think?
Well, I mean, I care what they think. They're people just like anybody else. And if they can't find happiness without that, then I want them to be able to get that. What I want to know for sure is that is the case, that they do need that in order to be happy. If that is not the case, then we're having a different conversation.
Well, because it would improve the quality of their life.
How can it improve the quality of life? They're insane and they're hanging on to the insanity.
But you have, correct me if I'm wrong, you've said that transitioning has improved the quality of your life.
That's my perception, yes.
Really? So you could be wrong about that perception?
I think perception in general is debatable. I'm not here to impose my perception on others.
No, just you. But could you be wrong about the fact that it's improved the quality of your life?
There's no evidence at my end. My perception is there's no evidence that that's the case. I'm not aware.
So that it's an interesting question, because you would expect the average person to be like, well, I say it's improved my life. How can you say that it hasn't improved my life when I'm the one living my life? But theoretically, we don't know what your life would have been like if you didn't transition. So we don't have anything to compare it to. We have before you transitioned and after you transitioned, but we don't have now if you transitioned and now if you didn't transition. So we technically don't know. Dietrich said, if my child said, I felt like I should I say, I can't think of anything else. Okay. If my child said, I felt like I should murder someone my whole life, I wouldn't give them my Glock and say, have at it. I'd get them tested and take proper measurements to keep them and others safe. Right. But when someone transitions, nobody dies. So that's not a good analogy for this. So we would say something similar. It would have to be something that changes their life, something that's irreversible, but that's not hurting somebody else. Because the fact is, it just doesn't hurt anybody else for you to transition. If you want to, cut your dick off, it doesn't hurt anybody else. If you want to murder somebody, it does. It does. So I don't have a good one off the top of my head, but that one doesn't fit, because it's hurting somebody else. But all right, let's get one more vote on the poll. One more.
I'm not saying I will never regret this, and then by the time I'm 90 years old, I'll have the same opinion. Anything can happen in the future, but I'm fairly certain that it's improved the quality of my life.
That is a great answer, given what we just talked about, where she can't know how his life would be if she didn't transition. Then all we have is how you were before you transition and how you were after you transition. And if your life has improved after you've transitioned, that's all we can measure. That's all we can measure. Unwanted Foe said, if you are schizophrenic, do we have to pretend the voices you hear are real? Yep, that's the question. Opa said, most of this stuff should be between the 0.01% of people who genuinely struggle with this and their doctors and psychologists. The people who turn this into a movement are borderline criminal. Completely agree. Because I definitely can commiserate with somebody who is in that 0.01%, and how their life and their lifestyle and their personal issues have now become a national, global discussion for people to take teams. It's not us. We didn't start talking about this shit. It's not our fault. We're just responding. So I completely agree with you. Any film says when someone quote unquote transitions, future generations die. Strong language there. All right. Zig says, if your child says that, then you must work on your parenting skills. Yeah. Only if they're oppressed. Only if they're oppressed. All right.
And I've been fairly certain of that for the last decade.
Oh, so this has been a thing of 10 years.
Yes.
So, okay, so if we had, let's just say...
Can I pick you up on your previous point?
Anything you want.
See, the point is this. There's lots of people who change their gender and they have their, genitals mutilated and they have body parts manufactured and all that, right? But then it changes and then they regret it and they can't reverse those.
Yeah, detransitioners they're called.
I mean, we're doing terrible things to kids. Kids can't, if a Muslim woman...
But he's not yes, that is a thing. But he's not addressing what we're talking about. We're talking about a specific trans person who's in front of him, who transitioned 10 years ago. And remember, we talk about that 7 to 10 year spot. So she's been a she for 10 years. So nobody knows if she's not going to regret it in the future. But as of right now, all signs point to the fact that she made the right decision for her. That's what he's not addressing.
Does a clitoridectomy on a 10-year-old daughter? That's a criminal offense.
Sure, but that's not what
we're talking about. But the judges here are ordering genital mutilation.
Guys, I'm so mad I didn't think of it. I'm so mad I didn't think of it. He probably wouldn't have come up anyway, but I should have dropped the StreamYard link for Peter. Man, if by any chance, Peter, you are still here, let me know if you want to come up and have a chat about your work. I would be honored and blessed.
It's a satanic country. We're changing the laws. We're going towards Satanism, and it's starting from the judiciary. They're making laws to make insanity normal. They're saying you have to affirm somebody else's belief system. If you look at them and they're a man and they've got a penis and they tell you they're a woman or they tell you that they're a labradoodle or something like that, why should you believe it?
To laugh.
I didn't mean to laugh.
That was a funny thing to say.
I don't have a problem with it. They can believe that they're a labradoodle, a female one or a bisexual labradoodle. But why should I have to accept that? I mean,
yeah. So you have two problems. I want to make sure I understand correctly. You have two problems. The first problem is that you think does the person an injustice.
Yes.
And the second problem is you think it's unfair to you to acknowledge somebody else's sex
because you don't impose that on me. It's like you can have your belief system that you're a bisexual labradoodle. I don't have a problem with that. When you tell me that I have to treat you like a bisexual labradoodle, then I have a problem.
Okay.
When you legislate that, I have a problem. See, this goes down to empathy, which is complete bullshit, right? Because we used to have adult people working with adult people. I've been in computers for 40 years.
Oh.
Okay, we don't even talk to people who act immature because we know they're childish and they're going to keep changing. So what you do is you keep your personality, your feelings to yourself. Even if you say something that is offensive to the other person, you want to give them a court for 30,000.
Justice for the bisexual labradoodles everywhere. They need it. They need your help. They need your help. Thank you, Unwanted Foe. We needed that.
$1,000 and they're saying, no, that's stupid. Well, it might be offensive to me because I've struggled hard to make $30,000. But I don't show that. What we are being asked to do now is to be aware of and to change our behavior for the feelings of other people. Yeah. But hang on, there's a problem with that. I didn't cause it. If I'm going to change the feelings of other people, it means that I have more power in their life than they do.
Okay, I'm coming to you for comment on that, but don't we do that in other aspects of our lives all the time?
No, only intimate relationships.
No,
like children and family.
No, but I mean, like we say, please, thank you. We that's open the door.
That's just civilized behavior and manners.
What do you have to say? I mean, he said there's a lot going on there.
So I think I got two important points out of that. The first point
bring it home, honey. Bring it home.
doing justice. I don't necessarily agree that I don't believe I'm doing injustice to myself. Obviously, I'm unable to have a natural family because I've medically transitioned and I can't have a, go off, get married, have kids. So all of that biologically cannot occur because of medical choices I've made. However, on the second point, the point of he shouldn't be forced to affirm, well, I don't think anyone should be forced to affirm anything. I do recognize in the West, there's this expectation by many in the LGBTQ community that however they identify individually, that they will be affirmed. On that point, I disagree with them, and so on this point, I agree with him that he shouldn't be forced.
What?
So it appears to me that 1 out of 2 points we do agree on something.
So one of the things that you said, which was interesting to me, so you made the decision to not have children, so you wanted to transition. So that was more important to your life than the possibility of having children.
That's crazy.
At the time in my life when I was younger, the gender dysphoria was too much, and
At the time in my life. So not just a yes, transitioning was more important than having a natural family. At that time in my life, this was too much for me.
thinking about, getting married, having children, I was in the headspace of that.
So, okay. So is there anything that you would like to say to this man?
Maybe?
Tell him if there's anything.
Sure. Life is very complicated. I assume there's nothing new there. It can be complicated in ways, we think life is complicated, but it can be complicated in ways that we cannot expect. So how he's taking it will be different to how someone else will take it.
Is there a way one should take it?
I don't think there's a right or wrong there. I think we just need to start to have conversations. And I've come across conservative Christians, conservative Catholics who all of a sudden,
Catholic.
Well, yes, and all of a sudden, for the first time in their life.
Are you though? Are you though? You say you're Catholic, but you're living in a way that is certainly not in line with the tenets of Catholicism. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. But in order to call yourself a Catholic, don't you have to follow Catholicism? See what I mean? When these words lose their meaning. We're talking about a lot of the trans stuff and gender and what does all of this mean. But I'm never going to let you guys forget that religion does the exact same thing. Where it's like God. Where it's like Bible. Where it's phrases like Christ-like. All of these things mean very different things to everyone. Don't forget.
They've seen a real trans person in their life and shock horror, I don't look like a drag queen. But then they'll have these perceptions fed by the media or whoever you want to point the finger at. They have these perceptions, and then when they meet someone like me in reality, they don't start, compromising on principles or their beliefs or what have you. But I do notice they take a step back and take it in because it can be a lot to take in.
Because life is complicated, like you said.
Right.
I can't believe I didn't drop the link.
Do you have?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if he was like, "Yeah, I'll come up and have a chat"? Oh my God! Oh man! Oh. Next time, you guys have to remind me. Drop the link. I need you guys there. Because I was just like, oh, snap. Because I didn't know, if he was still, at first, I thought maybe he was just going to say something. Well, at first, I thought it was one of you guys with like a troll thing that you just changed your picture. But then I looked at the YouTube chat and it was like the real one. I was like, oh, snap. He's really here. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. If hopefully I can find some contact info. But yeah, definitely gonna do that. But oh man, could have had a conversation that would have been awesome. And he was here for a minute, and I didn't think of it. I just didn't think of it.
Anything that you'd like to say
Well, just that.
to them?
I mean, I'm very happy that some trans people accept that they can't impose their belief system on other people, right? But the problem is that it starts with homosexuality. It doesn't start with transgenderism. It's because
What do you mean?
well, there is basically we'll start with your example, right? If you're a boy and you've got a penis,
Correct.
and first of all, you don't have the sexual maturity to make any decisions or to have any
When you're
feelings.
very young, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what they're pushing. All right, so that's perversion, and that's grooming the child for pedophilia later in life. Okay, when they get to the point where their hormones start kicking in,
Yes.
and they've already passed the age of reason, right?
Like 18.
No, age of reason, 7 years old, 9 years old at max.
Oh, I was thinking like American law, but okay, go ahead.
No, I'm talking about the ability,
Oh, okay.
religious
okay.
culpability, where you are then able to sin. You can't sin if you're 5 years old and you don't understand sin.
Right.
But if you understand that it's wrong to piss in your friend's lunchbox and you do it, right?
I love your examples.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Okay, when you're
Yeah. 5
years old, it's not a crime. When you're
Right.
7 years old, it's a crime.
Yeah.
All right?
All right.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is that they know what their penis is for.
Right.
They know what the girls are like.
Right.
And they start getting attracted to girls. And if they don't get attracted to girls and they're attracted to boys, there's a problem.
What's the problem?
Well, you can't ever get married and have children. It's
What if
very
they don't?
simple.
What if they don't want that? They're just born like that.
Who cares what they want at 7 years old? They're going to change, remember?
Okay. Well, so what if they
They're
feel
gonna
like
change
that?
Yeah, but people do grow up to not want children. It's not like everybody who doesn't want children when they're younger changes their mind. That is a thing that people want. It's not saying that just because at 7 years old that you don't want children now means that you are never going to want children. But it doesn't mean that because you're 7 years old, you automatically will want children when you're older. You know, so I'm going to go ahead and say the age of reason is 14 to 15 years old. So when they're saying that, what is happening? When they say the age of reason, they mean the age that you start to be able to use reason and logic. So that's usually around 6-7 years old.
At like
Right.
21.
Right. If they feel like that in the 21, they have every right to feel like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Or anything over 18.
Okay.
But the point is, it's not permanent because someday, just like the lady over there, I'm sorry, whichever way you want to, whatever, they change. So at 21, they might say, they're
So that's
homosexual.
interesting for a second. So you said I'm sorry. So you wanted to be respectful and
Yes,
polite.
because I'm talking to her like a normal human being.
Yeah.
She's a human being,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not being,
No, you're not being.
purposely offensive.
No. You're being.
Right.
No, you're being honest.
Right. But if I don't know someone, I just categorize them the way they do, So the point is
So
that
you're
the person-
extending courtesies to the people, like
Well,
basic
she's-
courtesy.
Absolutely. Why
Yeah.
not?
Well, no, I agree.
I'm
Yeah.
a civilized person.
Well, yeah, me too.
So we need to identify that they need help. It's sex dysphoria. It's not gender dysphoria because gender keeps changing.
Okay.
And the homosexual that we just mentioned, at 21 he might be homosexual. At 30, when he decides he wants to get married and have children, he might change his mind.
More so for women than men, but okay, I'll run with what
That's
you're saying.
statistically, right? I mean, there's a lot of propaganda pushing homosexuality like it's a possibility. It's not. This is liberalism, right? A penis only fits into a vagina. It does not fit into an anus. You don't put anyone deciding that they want to
I
put.
think we have a lot of people who might disagree with that, but a lot of heterosexual people who disagree with that.
It doesn't matter if they agree or not. I would be seriously offended by trying to put my reproductive equipment where somebody else collects their human waste, their toxic human waste.
Uh-huh.
It's insane. It's not funny. I mean, women
It
can
kind of is funny, but okay.
Kind of.
women
Okay.
can get pleasure in other ways. They don't necessarily have to have anal sex because it's not sex; it's perversion. The only sex that can happen is between a penis and a vagina.
What if a woman or a guy wants that?
Well, if they want that, it's obviously perverse, right?
Doesn't mean it's bad because it's a kink.
It's not kink; it's perverse, and it's going to kill them.
How's it going to kill them?
Well, you get all sorts of. It's the lifestyle that goes with it.
We went way left. This went off the rails. Dude was so like reasonable, and now he's saying like, I mean, if you're gonna, how did we get here? How did we get here?
Yeah, but people have anal sex constantly, and people aren't dropping dead from anal sex.
Wait until they get to 55 and they can't control their bowels.
Oh no, I'm 56.
It's called incontinence.
Has he been having anal sex?
All right, they take on lots of lovers. I heard a homosexual. I have friends who are homosexual, and he was boasting that he was up at the lavatory in King's Cross somewhere, and that after 15 men he stopped counting. Now he doesn't know exactly. Now, do you think he's going to get AIDS or some horrible venereal disease?
I hope he wore protection.
No, he didn't. He was on drugs.
Well, that's another problem. But
there's a lifestyle that goes with it. You don't just go and do one-off anal intercourse.
What about trans? Is there a trans lifestyle?
Well, I think it's homosexuality that has now blossomed into trans, that is now getting more and more complex. Life isn't complex.
Life is not complex.
Correct.
What?
If you want to make life complex, then you're insane.
If you want to make life complex, then you're insane.
What?
I mean, how did we get here? Amanjit Foe said he reminds me of someone last stream. I wonder who that could be. Somebody who is very strong in their beliefs and is just talking and talking and talking and not really going anywhere. You're not making any points. You're not leading to anything. You're just kind of saying things. Like, what is happening?
Science gives you all what you need to know. Religion gives you the rest.
Okay.
It's straightforward. People who know, people who have knowledge, they're not constantly contradicting themselves in their head. The problem with insane people is they're actually contradicting themselves in their head. So they're in pain. They're in intellectual pain. And that's why they need validation from outside. They're terribly insecure. We need to make them secure by giving them treatment.
I'm going to give you the last word, and then we're going to move on. You have anything to say or anything to what do you want people to know or what have you?
Dare I say this is probably the best discussion that is taking place in Australia, or one of the best that's taking place in Australia, because we've seen some pretty ugly scenes of protests and what have you, especially in Sydney and other places in the recent month or so. Since
Ooh, okay. We got a good betting idea for future stream debates. What is that? Let us know what is the betting idea for future stream debates.
The start of World Pride, we've had a series of public discourse around LGBTQ issues. There hasn't been a great reflection on us in general, but no one's thrown a punch, and no one's yelled at each other. And we're about to end on a very good note.
Yeah, what made this discussion so good?
The easy answer would be, we're Catholics. Of course it's going to go well. But no, I think the real answer is, I think deep down in all of us, it's a human thing for us to
all right.
be courteous, be thoughtful, and be compassionate.
All right, so we get it. An interesting take on how people have this kind of conversation. They're not very good at it. It's not like they don't know what they think or know what they feel. Sometimes that is the case. But when they do, the hardest part is saying the thing. It's not understanding. It's saying what you actually believe. And in my mind, that is a big issue. And so, again, shout out to Peter Boghossian for doing this kind of work. and making it so that people are more comfortable. We saw in the first one with the younger dude in the shirt where he, at first he was like, okay, I just got to say whatever is the thing. I got a virtue signal, whatever is the thing you're supposed to say, I'm going to say that. But then as he got a little bit more comfortable, he was even though he was on the last one, he was like kind of on the disagree line, but he was saying things that agreed with the prompt. And it's just that simple, guys. We have to be able to lead by example. Everybody else is looking around for who is the guy to follow. Be the guy. It's not that hard. You already know what you think. You just have to say it. Other people think it too, and other people are looking for somebody to be strong enough, to be brave enough to actually say it. Most people just aren't. Most people are just thinking like, oh, well, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get anybody mad. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Yet they'll sit and complain about this, that, and the other. They'll go on Twitter and complain, and they'll come into YouTube chats and say, oh, this, that, and typing away. And all you have to do is actually have conversations. Not win arguments, but have the conversation. So I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. I really, really, really appreciate you guys. Big shout out to all the people who donated. Thank you to Mark Peterson, to Unwanted Foe. Mark Peterson came in again, clutch. Unwanted Foe one more time. And of course, the sponsor of the stream, Indie Boom, who also got the secret word in today's video. Well, not today's video, but another video, and got the shout out today. So make sure when you guys are watching the daily videos that you go all the way to the end to get to the secret word. Comment that secret word and you'll get a special shout out at the beginning of the video. Thank you so much, guys. I really, 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 really do appreciate you guys. You know how much, you guys mean to me, and it really is. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to me. There's nothing else. Coming here, hanging out with you guys. That's everything to me. So thank you. We got okay. So a good betting idea for future stream debates. First a topic, then have a poll. Depending on the people in the debate, most votes win. That's not a new idea. That's literally how every debate wins. But it works. So not a bad idea. Thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate you. Hopefully you enjoyed this. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. What did you think? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Once again, this has been Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, we are out of here. Peace.